What's up, guys? It's Tuesday, which means it is waiver wire day. We're going to be doing our best not to cover players that we've already covered in past weeks so we can bring you guys new information and new players to add. Players like Nyheim Hines, Gardner Minshew, Brian Hill, Dalton Schultz, and Chase Claypool are players that were covered in last week's waiver wire video, and there haven't been new developments in their situations. These are still players you should be considering on your waivers. Week 4 waivers, let's get to it. We'll start off with the QB position. Ryan Fitzmagic. Back-to-back 24-point games, and he has a good matchup next week against the Seahawks, in which the Dolphins should be forced to pass quite a bit. He's a nice streaming option in Week 4 if you're in need of a QB. Another option would be Nick Foles. What was inevitable has finally happened. Matt Nagy finally made the good coaching call to sit Trash Trubisky and to start Foles going forward. Foles put up a good fantasy day with 18 points for not even playing the whole game. In all honesty, he didn't look that great, but he still has weapons with Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, and Montgomery, and he still looked much better than Trubisky. You don't have to start him now, but you have to see his playoff schedule. Weeks 13 through 16, Detroit, Houston, Minnesota, Jacksonville. This could be a really clutch play in the fantasy playoffs, especially in deeper leagues. Next, we have the running back position. Jerick McKinnon, 84% owned. He might have a rib injury, but you saw what he could do when he played. I already covered him last week. I just want to further emphasize how much he needs to be added in leagues. The same goes for this next guy, Darrell Henderson. The dude played real well and lived up to that off-season hype, posting a stat line of 114 yards and a touchdown on 20 carries. And that was against a pretty solid Bills defense. I already covered this dude last week, but if your league mates still haven't acquired him yet, add him immediately. Rex Burkhead. If you were one of the lucky people to predict Rex's breakout game, then congratulations. He's def worth an add after a 30.3 TD blowout, but this Pats RB situation is just too convoluted to actually start somebody. I mean, in order for Rex to have this game, Cam had 0 rushing TDs, and JJ Taylor and Sony, who both received a fair amount of work, didn't get any TDs either. Not to mention, Cam only threw for 162 yards, and with Damian Harris and James White coming back into the fold, he's worth an add to see if Belichick gives him more work, but you shouldn't keep your hopes too high. Jeffrey Wilson Jr. The lack of healthy Niners RBs. We know that the Niners RBs are going to produce. It's just usually not sure which one it's going to be, so that's the reason why we avoid putting early draft capital into these cloudy running back by committee situations. But when 3 out of the 4 of the running back by committee are injured, play the only healthy one, and that healthy one is Jeffrey Wilson Jr. He put up 2 TDs with McKinnon leaving the game with an upper rib injury. He's definitely worth an add in all leagues. Next we have Carlos Hyde, 19% owned. With Chris Carson getting injured off that Bush League play in the Cowboys game, luckily Carson only has a knee sprain and it's possible that he could play this upcoming week. But Hyde is already getting touches and snaps, and he would be the clear starting RB for this team if Carson were to miss any time. And this is the Chris Carson that would have been picked in the early 2nd round if not for injury concerns. Carlos Hyde should be stored in all leagues, and keep your eye out for DJ Dallas. He could be used a lot in the passing game if Carson were to go down with a serious injury. Next we have Myles Gaskin. Before the season started, the best RB on the Dolphins roster was thought to be between Jordan Howard and Matt Breida. Lo and behold, Myles Gaskin says screw you to the haters, and he's outplaying every single running back on this roster. So the money that they're paying Jordan Howard must seem pretty wasteful right about now. Gaskin can do it all and is doing much better than Howard and Breida. I don't know why he's only rostered in less than 50% of leagues. That just shouldn't be a thing. I mean, he's scored more than 8 fantasy points each game this season. Yes, the Dolphins aren't going to be doing him any favors, and their run blocking doesn't look great, and the game scripts won't be in their favor. But he's still worth an add in all leagues, purely based on the fact that he's low-key having a great start to the year. Up next, Cordarrelle Patterson, 7% owned. I guess Patterson is considered an RB wide receiver in ESPN and a wide receiver in Yahoo, but whatever. I'm putting him in the RB category with Tariq going down with the ACL injury. I hope that he recovers fast. This is definitely a deeper league ad, but the Bears have little elsewhere to turn to for their running backs. Montgomery should get a boost in volume, but I can't imagine Matt Nagy wanting to give Montgomery 90% of the workload, especially with all the preparation for Cohen-intended plays and with Montgomery coming off a recent soft tissue injury. Patterson's role should become more clear in coming weeks. He's worth an ad, but not a play until we can better understand his fantasy outlook. Damian Harris, 25% owned. He was drawing rave reviews in training camp and should be coming back within the next week or two. Somehow, this guy is still available in 75% of leagues. He's actually eligible to come back and play week 4, and he's probably the most talented back in this Pats backfield, so don't miss out. Let's move on to wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, 7 catches, 175 yards, and a touchdown. He showed up as the number 2 wide receiver that Kirk and the Vikings desperately needed. We definitely want to see if he can put it together for multiple weeks, but this kind of output deserves an ad. Fingers crossed for this Vikings team. Allen Lazard, 49% owned. He may not have speed comparable to 4.340 MVS, but he seems to be the clear number 2 option for Rodgers when Adams returns to this lineup. Rodgers has talked up Lazard ever since he joined the team, and Lazard put on a show this weekend, tallying over 140 yards and a touchdown, even though it could have easily been 2 or 3 touchdowns. With the Packers offense and Rodgers rolling, grab him while you can. Next we have Hunter Renfrow. 6 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets. Renfrow was one of the only bright spots for the Raiders this past weekend. It's pretty simple. As long as Henry Ruggs is out with this hammy injury, Renfrow is playable in this Raiders offense. Until Ruggs returns, which may be a bit longer than we'd like, as Gruden hasn't been that positive regarding Ruggs' injury. Renfrow is the only playable wideout for the Raiders. Buffalo is a tough matchup next week, though. You may have to wait to play him until the Raiders face off against the Chiefs in Week 5. Next we have Scotty Miller. This dude is one deep TD drop away from being rostered in 80% of leagues. With Godwin out with another injury and Evans a hammy groin injury waiting to happen, Scotty is in a great position to take advantage of his quick chemistry with Brady. He has been a bit of a boomer bust, but you're going to get plenty of that when you're grabbing wide receivers off the waivers. He's still worth an ad in 12-team leagues and bigger. Moving on to Greg Ward, 1% owned. So it's come to this point. Greg Ward is the wide receiver 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Rager's out with a UCL sprain, and Deshaun's soft tissue injuries are keeping him off the field once again. Not to mention, even Goddard is going to miss time with an ankle injury. Wentz looks like crap, but he has to throw the ball to somebody, and Ward garnered 11 targets this past weekend. If you're looking for a wide receiver or a flex play, consider Greg Ward. Andy Isabella. Can't deny that this dude can run. Isabella hasn't exactly been a bust of a draft pick, but he hasn't been playing at the same level as some of the other wide receivers in his same draft class. Nonetheless, Murray has shown little hesitancy to chucking the ball deep, even to a fault this past weekend, against a lackluster Lions secondary. I mean, Hop was open on a few of those picks. Come on, Kyler. Anyways, with Kirk not stepping up into the wide receiver 2 role for this offense, and Fitz playing a minor role, it'll be a matter of time before Hopkins is really schemed out of more plays. I mean, he could have gone for 15 receptions easy this game. Such a beast. This is a great opportunity for Andy Isabella to capitalize on. Keep an eye out for Kirk's injury progression. If he misses another week or two, Isabella could be a sneaky flex option in really deep leagues. Let's move on to tight ends. Jimmy Graham. It's really tough for me to put this man on this list because he hasn't really been able to move in years. Yet, he's getting touchdowns. You really shouldn't consider him unless you're in a really desperate spot. He's a TD or bust, but 14 teams and deeper, I guess it's okay. Same deal here with Eric Ebron. He has a little bit of a brighter fantasy outlook compared to Jimmy Graham, and he's playing on a better offense with a better QB. But Ben has so many mouths to feed on this offense, Ebron will still be a touchdown or bust tight end. Deep leagues only. If you want more quality content to crush your league, then subscribe so you don't miss anything. and we'll be doing our start sit on Saturday. I'll see you guys on the next vid.